Hello and welcome to the video tutorial for batch import. The batch import function allows you to import in bulk for agreements, lots and suppliers. And this function is available to Consortia users only. So first of all, you need to log into the system and then click on the hamburger menu and select batch import. This will bring you to the screen that you can see now. Now when you're setting up your import, you need to decide which items that you would like to import. You can choose between agreements, lots and suppliers. Once you've decided on what you'd like to import, that's when you need to go into our download files in the template section just here. So by clicking on each of those, they will download an Excel spreadsheet to your desktop to allow you to put the information in that you're ready to import. Now I've set some up already. So first of all, we're going to go into the agreements template. On the first line of the spreadsheet, you can see that it's telling you exactly what it would like you to put in each of the columns. Now you'll recognise these from when you're filling in a normal agreement on the system. It's all the same fields that you'd normally put in. Now we'll work through these one by one now. In this first field, it's an ID number the system is asking for. Now this has nothing to do with the ID details that you're going to put into the system. This is purely a numbering process so that it knows in what order to bring them in. So if you were going to import 3 different agreements, you would put 1, 2, 3 in that first column. In the second column, you can see it's asking for the type. This is 0 for a consortium agreement and 1 for a local agreement. The next column across asks for the agreement ID. Now this is the hunter reference that you'll need to put in there. The next column across looks for the category agreement. So in here it just wants the ID number from the list that you can see above. The next column asks for your agreement name. So you can put in the agreement name exactly as you would before. And then it's asking for a status ID. For this one, it's always 2. The next column, you need that blank. You can see that the text changes from red to green, green meaning that it's an optional field and red meaning that it's a mandatory. Let's just scroll this across a little bit. Then it wants you to enter the CPV code, your hunter ID, and then the start and end dates for your agreement. Optional then is your extension date if you'd like to put one in, and you can see the date format must be day, month, and 4 digits for the year. Again, the next field is a leave empty. Let's just move across. And then we've got optional fields for you to fill in for the value from, value to. The next 2 fields for the RFQ, because RFQ is being removed from the system, these will always be left blank. The next column is tags. Tags is a system code for keywords. So in here you can add as many keywords as you like for this particular agreement. If you're putting in multiple keywords, make sure you separate them with a comma and no space is necessary. The next is mandatory fields, how to buy and keynotes. So all this information here gets entered in just like normal. And then you've got lots of optional fields then for the agreement scope, benefits, framework text and so on. And the very last column is for your ODU number. So you'll add a different agreement onto each line. Now you may just be in uploading one agreement, so you just have one line, or if you're doing several agreements at once, then you can do it on the multiple lines. So now you would save that as normal, and you're welcome to give it a different name. So you can actually call it something, maybe your agreement name or a particular batch that you're putting in, or you can literally save it as it's the same name. So I'm going to close that now. The second stage is to put the lots in. That's if your agreement has got lots. So one of my agreements, I'm putting 2 in, one of them has got lots and the other one hasn't. So now I've gone into this lot screen, and again we're putting in ID numbers for incremental use only, not connected with anything in the system. They're purely to number the system so Excel knows how to handle it. Then I'm adding in the lot name, the agreement ID. Now this one does link to the spreadsheet that you created first time round for the agreements. So in my spreadsheet, this was number 1, the first row. So I want all 3 lots to join that particular agreement. So I've put 1 in for all of those. Again, we've got a start date and an end date and an extension date if you want to. So you can see I've added that for all. And then the last field is again tags. So you can choose to add keywords for each of the lots if you'd like to. Again, separated by a comma if you're putting more than one. And then again, you'll save that, close that, and then we work on the suppliers. Now you don't have to add suppliers in, this is optional, but if you'd like to put in a bulk of suppliers, then it will connect them all up for you when you run the import. So again, on here, Excel is asking for an automated ID to be put in, just incremental 1 upwards. Name of the supplier, the postcode, their address, and address lines 2 and 3 are optional. The supplier town, their country. Now this is marked as optional, but I would recommend that you leave this blank, and it allows you to select it when you go into the system. Then you can put in the telephone, which is mandatory, and then some different optional fields, exactly like you would have if you were adding a supplier in the system. Now, this end bit. This is how you connect the supplier to which agreement or lot that you've got in the system. So again, this takes the ID number from the agreement spreadsheet. So I want to add these suppliers, all of them, to agreement number 1. And then the second part, I can leave that blank if I'm not adding lots, or if I want to add them to individual lots, I put in the lot ID again from the spreadsheet as to which ones I want them to go into. So this first supplier here, you can see that I want them to appear on lots 1, 2 and 3, whereas the third supplier is only going to be on lot number 1. And again, save that, and then you're ready to import that into the system. Now here you can see I've got this imports in progress, which talks about different imports that I've done before. The destroy button allows you to just delete those. Once you've actually run the import, you can only ever view them again. You can never redo the import. But if you hadn't imported it yet, it would have a button here for you to be able to open that up and actually run that import. So it is possible to save it and leave it in the system before you actually run that import. Okay, so now we're on to the import process. We can upload the files that we've chosen against each of these 3 different sections. So I'm going to choose the file and choose my agreements template, my lots template, and my suppliers template. And the send button down here will send that up to the system, and it will begin checking for us. So I'm going to press that now. Okay, and you can see up here in the top right that we've got some validation errors. Now that's going to happen almost every time that you do an import, where the system just needs a little bit more of your time to select some few options in there. So we're going to navigate through the import now. You get through the agreement section, lots, suppliers, and then we'll work through to doing a summary before we actually run the import. So the first thing it wants us to do is have a look at these agreements we're bringing in. If it's got a red line around it, like you can see around the outside of both of my agreements, that's telling us that it's got a validation error and we've got to go in and fix that. So we click on the text at the bottom here, and that expands that out to show us all the detail that we're importing. You can check all those details and look for a red box which will tell you what it needs some help with. So here it's asking us for an agreement manager. So I can go into that list and I can select which agreement manager is going to look after it. And again, at the moment, RFQ is still permitted in the system, but this will soon be taken out. So at the moment, it's asking us to choose yes or no. If the RFQ is not allowed, you must enter RFQ text below. There we go. And I can see I've got no more red boxes in there, so I can now check the second one. And I can see again, it wants me to select an agreement manager, and this time we'll say yes for RFQ. I can then hit the save and recheck button at the bottom. The system checks, and it now says that it all seems good, and it's saved and checked those agreements for us. So now we can move on to the next step, which is lots. And again, it's telling us we've got some validation errors on these, so we're going to work through and just fix those. These are my 3 lots. I can click to expand, and I can see I've got a date problem here, that I've got this starting before my actual agreement starts. So I'm just going to go in and correct those dates. I can also expand to have a little look to see if there's anything else in there that I want to fix it with. But there's no other problems with anything it's got in there. Now, if you've forgotten to include some keywords, this is the point that you could put those keywords in. Again, separated by comma, and then you can do save and recheck, and it will recheck those details for us. 2 green lights, so we can now move on to the suppliers section. So in the suppliers, again, it's letting us know it wants a little bit of help. And in here we've got some slightly different options. I'm going to expand our first supplier, and it's telling me that it's Elite Furniture that I'm trying to import. First of all, it wants me to tell it what country we're in, and as I'd mentioned to you before, it's much easier to put this in this view rather than in the spreadsheet and needing to know country codes for all of the codes. So I'm just going to select United Kingdom for that, and I'm ready to go on. You can see at the bottom of the list here you can enter in all the information that you had before. You can also decide if you wanted to bring in other lots or take lots off. If you decided at this point, actually no, I don't want them on lot number 1, I can click on that and it won't now add them to lot number 1. So this column here is available, and this is the column that you're going to move them to. And if I made a mistake there and wanted to put it back, click again and it still will import it into lot number 1. Now another option we've got in here is to use an existing supplier. Now when you've put in all the information, the system has gone away and checked and has looked for any possible duplicates. So it's using the company name and postcode to see if it can match that. So if you drop down the list here, you can see that it's found Elite Furniture and Elite Office Furniture. So if you know that one of those is the correct record, you can literally click on that. It will ignore the entry that you're adding here, and it will instead add this company to the lot that you're putting on the system. Now if you decide that that is the wrong company and you want to use the one that you've created today, change it to do not use, and it will ignore any existing suppliers and it will put in the details you've given. So now we're going to work down and again just correct it. All of them will be asking for a country. And the last one. There we go. So again, now I can tell it to save and recheck. Great, 2 green lights again, so we can now give the summary before we run the import. So this summary here is telling us there's no errors found, no errors in the lots, and no errors in the suppliers. So we're all good to go, and it's showing me the Perform Import button. If you've got any problems at this point, it will tell you here that you've got validation errors in suppliers or wherever, and it won't show the Perform Import button until it's happy that everything is correct. Now at this point, I would strongly suggest that you save this, as it's literally saved at this point, so you can now leave this and get in touch with support. If you give us a quick call, we can check your import before you run it, because once you've run the import, it cannot be undone. So it'll then be a manual process for you to go in and delete everything that you've put in or archive off suppliers and things. So I would say until you're really happy with this part of the system, give us a quick call, we'll check that everything looks good, and then you can run your import. Now I'm happy that the import is all okay, so I'm now going to perform the import. Click on the button there, and the system will go away and import everything into the system for me. Depending on how many entries you've got to go in, this could take a few seconds. Okay, so it's letting me know in my summary that the import was successful, and I can now destroy the import or I can leave it for future reference. So this puts it in the little dashboard list of all the imports that I've done. But you won't be able to rerun this import again. You'd have to start it as a new one if you wanted to do similar. Then we got a listing of exactly what it's done for us. So it's created 2 agreements and they're links to take me straight through to those agreements. It's created 3 lots and it's created 5 suppliers for me. Now at this point you have to go in to the agreement or the lot and select the contacts for the suppliers that you would like to show, because the batch import system doesn't look after contacts, that most of those will be in the system already for you. So you can literally click on the link and you can see everything there that you've imported is now showing, and for this one you'd then go into a lot and you would manage the suppliers and manage the contacts exactly as you would before. Okay, so this is a complicated part of the system, and so as I say, I would definitely get in touch with support if you're stuck at any point and we can guide you through.